We are getting new information about just how long the FBI was digging around in the president's inner circle. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is here with details on the probe into Michael Cohen. Good evening, Catherine.
Shannon, these heavily redacted court records show the investigation into Michael Cohen began nearly a year before the FBI raided his New York business and dwellings in April of 2018. The special counsel requested and obtained multiple warrants for Cohen's emails that cover correspondence during the presidential campaign. The filing runs into the hundreds of pages, and 19 are completely blacked out or redacted with the heading, quote, illegal campaign contribution scheme, underlying how the president's greatest legal exposure may be in the Southern District of New York and unrelated to Russia collusion. Cohen pled guilty to lying to Congress, as well as multiple financial crimes, including campaign finance violations after two women were paid to remain silent about alleged affairs prior to the presidential election. President Trump denies their allegations. The unsealed records show federal investigators also wanted historical and future location data for Cohen's iPhones to confirm from where he sent and received emails. In April 2018, the FBI sought and obtained authority to use an electronic technique known as triggerfish. On Fox, a former Justice Department official said the investigative strategy is not common.
I think it's probably geolocation and knowing where this guy is, which could mean that they're trying to corroborate him on an important point, or it could mean they're trying to find out if he's lying to them about an important point.
The April 2018 timeframe appears significant because Cohen testified that he was told by the U.S. attorney not to discuss his conversations after the FBI raid. Shannon?
Catherine Herridge, thank you very much. All right, critics have called the special counsel Russia investigation everything from a fishing expedition to a witch hunt. So with the revelation today that the FBI was getting warrants on Michael Cohen as far back as mid-2017, should they feel vindicated or worried? National Security Attorney Bradley Moss and RNC committee woman for California, Harmeet Dhillon, they're both here to join us as our legal eagles tonight. Great to have you.
Absolutely. Good evening.
Thanks, Shannon.
All right, I want to start with this quote that appears in Newsweek. They're quoting Nick Ackerman, who's a former federal prosecutor. He worked on Watergate on the investigation. The headline is Michael Cohen's documents suggest significant threat of Donald Trump's inner family being indicted. Ackerman told Newsweek that the redactions make it clear that the probe by the Southern District Feds is still continuing and that the prime target is likely President Trump. Asked if Trump, members of his family, or business associates could wind up being indicted as a result of the investigation, Ackerman said, absolutely. Harmeet, how worried should they be tonight?
Well, I think what this whole episode shows is that clearly from the beginning of this process that the president was the target and not necessarily Russian collusion. So the risk is attached if the payments are, in fact, campaign finance violations. And I practice some campaign finance work, and I've run for office and had to comply with those as well. And I think that those payments are absolutely not campaign finance violations. The fact that Michael Cohen pled guilty to them is as a result of him being under the gun for a lot of other crimes as well and wanting to comply and please the prosecutors. But if John Edwards did not commit a campaign finance violation by having donors pay off his mistress and his baby mama, then neither did Donald Trump in this situation.
Okay, so we know that they were digging around much earlier in his business practices, potential bank fraud, all kinds of things that they were looking back in 2017. But here is what Congressman Mark Meadows, obviously one of the most outspoken conservatives on Capitol Hill, says this. Michael Cohen lied about seeking a pardon from President Trump. He lied about wanting to work in President Trump's administration, and both times he lied under oath. Brad, does that make him an impeachable witness, meaning he could be discredited?
Of course, he could be discredited, but I have no reason to believe that anything Michael Cohen says is going to be relied upon in any ultimate prosecution of anybody else in the president's inner circle, up to and including the president himself. Documents don't lie. That's been the critical part. You read these hundreds of pages that were released today from the Justice Department. They've got the emails, they've got the iCloud account, they've got the phone logs, they've got everything off his phones when they raided it in April of 2018. They've got the recording devices. They don't need Michael Cohen's testimony for anything to go after anybody else unless they can corroborate it with someone else's testimony or other documentation. They have the receipts, and that is why the president and his inner circle should be scared tonight, not anything Michael Cohen has said.
Well, they didn't charge him with anything connected to Russian collusion. We've yet to see that happen. him. But I want to ask you both tonight if you can quickly weigh in on Greg Craig. He was White House counsel for President Obama, and the New York Times is reporting that he may end up getting charged as a result of this Mueller investigation because they're deciding whether or not he's going to be part of a more aggressive crackdown on illegal foreign lobbying. They said he had some ties to then Ukrainian president who was being backed by Russia. Didn't necessarily disclose that, according to this report from the New York Times, or at least that's the potential allegation against him. Harmeet, would this change the investigation, do you think, in any public perception if a key Democrat ends up getting charged?
Well, I think that's the whole point of it. I mean, the reality, Shannon, as many guests on your show have said, is that these FARA violations, these lobbying violations, are generally not prosecuted. Both sides do it, unfortunately, and they should be prosecuted. But Gregory Craig wouldn't have been prosecuted or be under the eye of the Department of Justice had it not been, in my opinion, to try to make the witch hunt against Donald Trump and his affiliates, Manafort and others, look more balanced and legitimate. But, in the specific facts here, the former White House counsel appears to have lied to his partners. That's what Skadden Arps has said, his former law firm, in itself reaching a deal with the DOJ and disgorging some of those monies, and concealed the fact that he was attempting to manipulate American public perception of some very shady and bad people abroad in the Ukraine. And so, I mean, he should go away for that. But this is much broader, and that same story is also showing that a couple of other Democrats, Podesta and some others, may be also under investigation for the same violations.
So, Brad, charging some Democrats, or at least floating the idea that they may be an attempt to make the Mueller investigation look more balanced, and we're almost out of time.
A little bit. I mean, look, it's going to be draining the swamp. It's going to be DOJ doing it, not the president. But if you are liberal, conservative, whatever, if you are breaking this statute and you are concealing this information and preventing DOJ from properly implementing this statute, you should be prosecuted. If that means Gregory Craig gets in trouble, so be it.
Yeah, I think we all think that the law should be fair and equal, regardless of party or any other ideology. Brad and Harmeet, thank you both. Great to see you.
Absolutely. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Shannon.
You too. All right, is it time to lower the voting age to 16?